Hey, today we're going to talk about the gear I used on my Pacific Crest Trail thru hike in 2024. What I liked, what I didn't like, and things that I would not take on the PCT again. And for ease of reference, since this is a long video, in the description, I will go ahead and put time marks to cover different parts of my kit. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Hope you enjoy the video. So let's talk backpacks. So I had three backpacks that I used on my PCT thru hike. The first one, Hyperlight Mountain Gear Unbound 55. Good pack. It lasted me through most of the Sierra, and then it started developing a tear right above the right shoulder strap. That pack is, I'm sending it back for a warranty repair, so it's not going to be in this video. The second pack I ended up getting on trail at Mammoth Lakes was this little guy. This is the Hyperlight Junction 55, and it was the workhorse for the majority of my thru hike. Great backpack, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight some of the features on it. So unlike the Windrider, it's got reinforced side pockets for water bottles and stuff like that, and it's got this big mesh pouch. Plenty of videos on the interwebs about it. I'm not going to go too much into it. Bottom line is the thing worked. Great pack, and no complaints. So here's some of the modifications I did to the pack to make it work for what I needed. So I put some additional straps here so I could put winter gear on here, and also a foam pad. So basically straps going across. And the Hyperlight packs of this type come with little hookups right here, you can see, to connect those straps. You can see that they're probably not as good. I'll show it down here, right there. So on both sides. Other things I did to the pack. So I added this Chicken Tramper ultralight gear pouch. This was to hold my phone during the Oregon portion and into Washington. This thing's pretty good. It's made of an X-Pack material, kept my phone dry, and I got to the point where, frankly, that was something I wanted, and I didn't have that. I was using a fanny pack to carry my phone for the majority of the trail, but this became easier, especially when I no longer had a camera, which I'll discuss. And then my camera was mounted on this Peak Designs mount that you've probably seen, or if you haven't, you can query it. And I used my GoPro with that, so I mounted it this way. Additionally, I had these Z-Packs shoulder pad reinforcements. Those are really nice. They got pretty flat after about 1,000 miles. For whatever reason, I just kept them and kept using them. And so that is pretty much the Hyperlight Junction 55 and the modifications I did. Okay, so the last backpack I used on trail was made by Z-Packs. The Z-Packs Ultra Nero 50 frameless backpack. I did tape on to the backpack a little thing, a Velcro thing, so I could put a Velcro patch on. Great backpack. It's frameless. It's 50 liters. I got it at Trail Days, and it came with the vest harness, which is great. It's a different design, but it takes the weight on your chest and not necessarily on your hips. I still like hip belts, so I did go get an improvised standard clip webbing, and I attached it where the hip belt goes just to keep the pack close to me. That was a modification I did. Z-Packs includes this little sit pad that's removable as kind of a back support. But again, it's a frameless pack, top loader, your typical top loading backpack. At that point in the trail, I hiked the last 200 miles of the PCT, including alternates, with this pack, and it survived a lot of rainstorms and snow, and it performed admirably. So big shout out to Z-Packs. I love this backpack, and I am seriously considering using it for future hikes, because I have dialed my weight down now to the point where this is something I would seriously consider using. Anyways, This is the Z-Packs. The one critique of it, and I did get a response back from Z-Packs, and I'm going to send this for warranty repair. On the right chest harness, you can see there's a rip developing right here between the padding and the harness itself. That developed about the first 50 miles. And additionally, the water pocket on the right shoulder strap started fraying and coming apart. You can see it right there. So great customer service so far from Z-Packs. Got a prompt response, and I'm going to be sending this off, the strap, and get a warranty repair on it. Again, this is the Nero 50 Ultra. Beautiful backpack. Highly recommend it if you're into frameless packs. So go ahead and start with stuff that's on the outside of the pack. So go into toiletries first. So this was my toiletry kit. I had a Hartford Gear, a little pouch, had a trail bidet that I used. So I had that coupled with a bottle, just an old Pepsi bottle. And basically, instead of using toilet paper, this was very convenient. Just had water in it, and this was my bidet. And I used it pretty much, I used it the whole trail. So basically it just connects up, and this bottle is separate from drinking water, so to be clear. But yeah, you can see how it's set up that way, and very cost effective, leave no trace all the way, and it definitely was better than toilet paper. And your standard kit, you know, your trowel, nothing big, something to clean your hands with. Hand sanitizer was available everywhere. Easy to fill up. You can usually get it for free. Anyways, that was the poop kit. And then the next thing is Coola cloth. It's like, oh, it's designed for women. Well, if you don't use toilet paper and you just use, you know, a bidet, I found a Coola cloth was really easy, just to get rid of the water, and you see the rest of that. But anyways, Coola cloth, not just for guys or gals. Let's see, what else? All right, so my trail gaiters. These things lasted the entire trail, although the Velcro came off. These are the Dirty Girls gaiters. My wife got these for me for Christmas, and they lasted the whole trail. And the Velcro's come apart now. I can still Velcro them to the back of my shoes, but yeah, good gaiters, industry standard, recommend them. Let's see, digging in the pack here. Tent stakes, nothing earth-shattering here, just regular standard tent stakes. I use the MSR Mini Groundhogs. Good stakes, a couple of them broke during the trail, got some replacements, that's expected. And let's see, my ground cloth. So this is a Dyneema composite fabric ground cloth from, what's the company in Virginia? Here, I'll look it up here as I undo this. It is Mountain Laurel Designs. So Mountain Laurel Designs, Roanoke, Virginia. Shout out to them. Dyneema composite fabric ground cloth. Yeah, it's a little expensive. Well, it's about $100, but it's bomb-proof. This thing is not going to rip. It was with me the whole trail. I used it every day. Amazing piece of kit, and you know, yeah. Enough said on that. All right. Oh, one other thing I've missed on this pack was, yeah, I used the Hyperlight Mountain Gear water bottle holder. And yeah, one thing I would recommend to Hyperlight is, you know, create a web belt or a hip belt that actually lets you hold drink bottles on your belt, not necessarily on your chest strap. This became an inconvenient. It was convenient, but it was inconvenient. It lasted. It had a couple rips in it, but all in all, good piece of kit. Okay, now let's get into the backpack. So again, Hyperlight Mountain Gear backpack here. Standard top loader. No, pretty much a no frills backpack. It's all business, gets the job done. Highly recommend it. Great backpack. So I did get into this backpack after the trail multiple times because I drove cross country and I need to pack it for travel. So I'm going to go through some stuff as I unload the backpack and show you what I. So this is a Ditty kit, just a Hyperlight DCF Ditty bag, and it had stuff in there, just random stuff. My permit, some doxycycline, in case I needed the antibiotic. It's more for the AT, but I brought it with me. Yeah, notebook, passport, permit, etc. And just general stuff. Repair kit, small little repair kit, and a little Ziploc bag. I had Dyneema composite fabric repair tape, some other stuff, not Leuco tape, but anyways, yeah, and some spare gaskets which I had to change out for my water filter on trail. Repair kit for my glasses if I needed to, just a screwdriver basically. A spare micro SD card with an SD card holder, and yeah, it turned out I had to use most of this stuff on trail at one point or another, so very good. As you can tell, it's a small kit. Dolphin flag, Kuya submarines. So this was my flag I flew on several points in the trail, so that was a good thing. And yeah, oh yeah. So let's see. Well, I got this out. My backup flashlight. Yeah, this thing's pretty cool. This is a Rovivon USB-C flashlight. This thing's pretty bright, and yeah, it was a good backup, and it clips onto your hat. I have a lanyard on it right now, but I can show you. Basically, you can put it on your hat, and you can use it, and it's really good. So this was my backup flashlight. Highly recommended, super light. So water filter. So I got it here. I used the industry standard for the most part. The Sawyer Squeeze. So everybody uses this thing for the most part. One pro tip on this is if you look right there, I replaced the default gasket, which is a piece of garbage, and for 29 cents at a local Ace Hardware, I got one of these garden hose gaskets with a strainer. I found this to be useful because, you know, when I was filtering water with muck in it, it would filter out the big stuff and it doesn't clog your filter. For back flushing, I don't know why Sawyer doesn't sell it with the kit, but it would behoove you to get one of these adapters. They cost like $2. Basically, it's a female adapter. You screw onto the flow. At the end of the flow, you stick a clean bottle and you back flush. That way you get the full pressure of the water bottle, the clean water bottle that you're using to flush down in your filter. Again, I don't know why Sawyer doesn't include that, and you know, but that's a recommendation for the water filter. So set that aside. Okay, so let's keep going through. Little first aid kit, this little DCF bag, just a variety of things in the first aid kit. Let's see, vitamin M, Motrin, or ibuprofen for you civilian types. Some Vaseline lip balm. So this is just Vaseline. Don't let it's just lip therapy, but it's Vaseline in a freaking tube. It's good for multiple uses, to include keeping your zippers, once they're clean, keeping them lubricated. So definite pro tip, bring those with you. And yeah, Neosporin, Band-Aids, blah, blah, blah. Very small kit. And turns out I had to use it several times on the trail. These little guys, all right, so these are icebreaker gloves. I got these in, where was it, Concrete, Washington, on my alternate. I got these before going up into the North Cascades because I knew it was going to rain, and there's nothing more awesome than to have cold, wet hands. And I had derivative type gloves in the Sierra, but they were already home. These are waterproof. They're like fishing gloves, completely waterproof. They don't breathe, but they're insulated on the inside, and they only cost $5. A lot cheaper than a $100 pair of gloves. And I highly recommend those. All right, a buff. Never, ever, ever go on a hike without a buff. This thing is useful. It's a handkerchief, a rag, neck gaiter. You can use it as a bandage. I mean, this thing has many uses. This was the free one I got in Franklin, North Carolina at the Outdoor 76 place when I was hiking AT. Let's see, what else? So in this little bag here are, oh yeah, windbreaker, wind pants. Cannot talk good enough about this. So Enlightened Equipment, amazing company. Highly recommend these, definitely for any trail you go on. This is the Enlightened Equipment wind pants. It weighs like an ounce. Super light, balls up. This was very handy in Northern California and Oregon when the mosquitoes were going crazy, especially in Oregon. And I could actually, the mosquitoes didn't penetrate through this, which was incredible. So, Enlightened Equipment wind pants. Accompanying that is the Enlightened Equipment wind jacket. It weighs 2 ounces, and it's amazing. This thing handled the trail. It's actually pretty durable. It was scraped up against a bunch of things and actually did all right. But yeah, I wore this with my sun hoodie, which I'll talk about separately in the clothing section. My sun hoodie plus this I was using in the High Sierra while I was moving. And I could go down to 20 degrees, no problem with that combination. So amazing piece of kit, highly recommended. All right, shelters. So I'm going to go over the shelters I used on the trail. I'm not going to fully assemble them. This was the Hyperlite Unbound 2-person tent. I used this through the Sierra, and this was great. Before that, in the desert, I had a Hyperlite Mid 1. Great tent. The problem with that is the vestibule, which is zippered, failed, completely failed. And so I was just clipping. I had about 600 miles on it, so before Walker Pass, it was already falling apart. And the lesson learned from that is the desert, you need to keep on top of keeping the zippers clean and lubricated. But anyways, I'm sending that back to Hyperlite. That's why it's not here. But this is the Unbound 2, which is similar zipper system. Didn't have problems with it. Great tent, lots of room. If you like tents, recommended. However, I would never buy this again. And I'll talk about that in the lessons learned at the end. So what did I use for the rest of the trail? So I ended up using a combination of, so this is a Hyperlite Mountain Gear 8-foot by 10-foot flat tarp. Dyneema composite fabric. Awesome piece of kit. Don't recommend tarps for everybody. You got to know how to tie knots. You got to know how to pick campsite selection well, and it takes a little bit more time. So the average person, I don't recommend it. I like tarp camping. I use this for the second half of the trail. Loved it. And if you leave a comment you're interested, I can talk more about it separately. There are videos out on YouTube about this product. And then along with that, I had a Bora Gear, B-O-R-A-H Gear DCF bug bivvy. This thing weighs 4 ounces. Yeah, good piece of kit. It's basically a bivvy sack. Instead of the top having, you know, waterproof stuff and a small bug screen, this literally had, the entire top was bug netting. It kept the mosquitoes out, even when there were thousands of them in Northern California and a bunch in Oregon. So I highly recommend it. It did get a bunch of tears in them. I had to do repairs to them, but all in all, good piece of kit. It lasted more than half the trail. Awesome. All right. Ursack. From Sonora Pass North all the way to Canada, used an Ursack. Like it, yeah, it's 8 ounces, but you know, it's fact of life. Use that with a lock sack, and you won't get any problems. I had no problems with rodents, bears, whatever. This thing worked great. And then I used the dumb bear can for the High Sierra. And then for the desert, I just used a food bag. All right, so continuing on here. All right, so Possum Down gloves. Z-Pack sells these. They're really good. Highly recommend Possum Down gloves. Amazing piece of kit. This is okay. I've been told. First, I'll tell you what it is, and then I will then describe it. So Z-Packs also makes these rain mittens. And they're really light. They're okay for about 10-15 minutes, and then they start leaking water into it. They do keep your hands warm though. You can wear them with the Possum Down gloves and then this, or you can just wear them as is, or any other glove. I predominantly wore them just as is, and they kept my hands warm despite being wet. The issue is the seam sealing. So I'll show you right there. These things are seam sealed. Well, the seam seals aren't really that good. And speaking with a representative from Z-Packs at Trail Days, they said that the next generation supposedly addresses this issue and it should be better. So anyways, good product. just let you know the limitations of the first gen. Cork rollout ball, thing was useful. Anyways, use that. And the other thing that was in this little bag, this is really good. This is an Enlightened Equipment rain kilt. I've used this on the AT and I used it on the PCT. This, my friends, good piece of kit. Super light, it's like 2 ounces, and it's waterproof. Totally works and allows ventilation. It's not like rain pants, and it allows basically airflow, and it keeps you dry for the most part. You're going to get wet anyways from the ankles down, so who cares? Might as well get some ventilation and not sweat. Good piece of kit. Okay, sun gloves. Yeah, outdoor research sun gloves, normal. Pretty much everybody had some derivative of this on the PCT. I went through 2 of them on the PCT. I had the older generation one all the way to Donner Pass, and it finally ripped. And then from Truckee, or I got these in Truckee, from Donner Pass all the way to Canada, they worked. They have no rips in them. They're great. Fantastic product. Some other odds and ends. Clip. Lots of uses. Clip my food bag inside with it. So inside my Ursack, I used basically a turkey basting bag. I would basically twist the top, and then I just clamp it. Also was good when the tent was broken, the vestibule, I could just close the vestibule using a couple of these. So I had carried about 2 of these. Air tag. So I kept an air tag in my backpack so I could keep track of it. Pretty handy. I did it mainly for traveling when I flew one way to San Diego, and then I just left it in my backpacks during the trail, and it was handy. Okay, now opening the pack. Standard trash bag. Yeah, it's waterproof, but got to still keep things dry. So starting at the top, this is my Alpha Fleece sleeping bag liner. It is made by Magnet Designs in Bend, Oregon. Amazing piece of kit. I cannot speak highly enough about this. Yeah, it cost about 90 bucks, but it lasted the entire trail. It's got some holes in it, but you know, it's a sleeping bag liner, for goodness sakes. This thing is a game changer. You can wash it. You know, I used this as a blanket only when it was really warm in Northern California, and then it adds 10 degrees. This thing helped me on San Jacinto. The coldest it got was around 11 degrees, just north of Mount San Jacinto in Southern California. And there were a couple days it was really cold in northern Washington, and this thing really came in handy. So if you're looking at sleeping bag liners, this is the only, as of today, what I know, and someone else may know better, this is the only Alpha Fleece sleeping bag liner I know of on the market. Made in Bend, Oregon, support American businesses. Let's see. The sleeping pad. Yes, the Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. Pretty much what most people use. This is the shorter version. So my ankles and legs hung out off them. I didn't care because it weighed less. I used this at the beginning of my hike. I sent it home, got a, I ended up getting, what was that? The Nemo Tensor Extreme. And I used that all the way into, through the Sierra. And that had a better R value. It was heavier, definitely like almost twice as heavy. That was a good sleeping pad, except it developed a leak in it, and it became useless. I got rid of it. And but this is a good pad, the Neo Air. Enough said about that. Let's see. Pillows. So this is an amazing piece of gear. Outdoor Vitals camp pillow. This thing's lasted me like 2.5, 3 years. Has no leaks. Great pillow. I highly recommend it. Go to outdoorvitals.com. Grab yourself one of these pillows. You won't regret it. Amazing. And last but not least, the quilt. This is an Enlightened Equipment Revelation 20 degree Fahrenheit quilt. I ordered it with the toe box zipper. This lasted the entire trail. I gotta wash it because it smells like ass, but it's an amazing piece of kit. And down to 10 degrees with the sleeping bag liner. So the Alpha Fleece sleeping bag liner plus this, I was comfortable basically just wearing my underwear barefoot with a t-shirt on in 10-degree weather. So, and on my shakedown for the PCT, I hiked the first 170 miles of the AT in the winter in North Carolina. This alone, with all my clothes on, got me down to about 14 degrees. I was cold, but I didn't die. It was uncomfortable, but I could do it. So that's what prompted me to get the sleeping bag liner. So anyways, yeah, great piece of kit, highly. So go to photographic equipment I used on the trail. So first thing I used was, this is a Sony a6700 camera, and this thing is an amazing piece of kit. I used it from the Mexican border all the way through basically South Lake Tahoe, and I sent it home from South Lake Tahoe. And I used 2 lenses on trail for this. This one is a Viltrox, so both are prime lenses for those of you who are into photography. It's a Viltrox 20mm f2.8, great lens, very low price point, high quality, no issues, and it's really light. So that was the compelling reason why I chose that lens, and I use that as my general purpose day lens. The second lens I brought with me, and I brought this one, and I sent that home. Also is the Rokinon. This is a manual focus lens. This is a Rokinon prime lens, 12mm, and this goes all the way down. This goes down to f2, and I use this primarily for night sky photography. I found this to be very crisp. Again, lightweight, small lens. You can look at the Rokinon right here versus the Viltrox. You can see they're very similar size. Great lens for night sky photography, wider field of view, really good. What I did find though was, in the end, this is all hindsight, I could have just used the Viltrox and I would have been just fine. And then for mounts, I pointed out yesterday on the pack, I had the Peak Designs mount, and I also have the Peak Designs hand grip, and I can hold the camera basically without it dropping. I also had a lanyard on it during trail, and I would clip that to my chest strap. But anyways, that's enough for photographic gear. And of course, the last thing, of course, I'm not done, is the camera I'm filming with is a GoPro 11 Hero. Great camera, no issues. It could even take some rudimentary night sky photography, although it was terrible. And the other limitation is for whatever reason, GoPro uses a proprietary RAW picture format. So when you're trying to take photos with RAW, it's pretty terrible, and because you can't use it with modern photographic software without going through some convoluted steps, which I chose not to do because it's a waste of my time. Anyways, enough on photography equipment. Okay, next fun part is kitchen stuff, water. I talked about water filter yesterday, so now we're going to go into how I carried the water, and also go into the cooking aspects of it. So when I started the trail, I had these things, these Ceenock Outdoors collapsible 1-liter doohickeys. I wanted extra water carrying capacity in case I needed the water in the desert. I used it once. Otherwise, I had the standard smart water bottles, and I had, like, 2.5, 3 liters, 3.5 liters, I think, of capacity, plus these two, so I had 5.5. And then as a real backup, if I really needed it, I had this little 2-liter doohickey from Ceenock Outdoors also. I used that once, and that was just more out of convenience in camp. I found that these just took weight, and I started early enough on the trail where the desert wasn't so hot. My water carries weren't that bad, and my longest water carry is 27 miles by choice. I didn't have to. That's a different story. But I sent these home when I got to, oh goodness, Wrightwood. So these went bye-bye. Standard things, a camp towel. A lot of people don't have them. I recommend bringing them. I got this on Amazon. This is a Bogey, whatever the brand is. This camp towel is great. I use this all trail. It makes a good shower towel. The size is medium. This makes a good shower towel, general purpose towel. Highly recommended. Your typical, you know, I got the from Yogi, the PCT class of 2024 bandana. Bandanas are great. All right, now to the cookware. So I used a Vargo Bot 750 millimeter titanium pot. This thing is money. It doubled as my regular cooking pot for hot, and then I cold soaked all my breakfasts. So this was my cold soak vessel also. It's got a gasket on it. You can see it right there. And that makes it awesome because it's got a screw top and it doubles as a cold soak cylinder. So if I ended up running out of fuel, I could easily shift to cold soaking and not miss a beat in terms of meal preparation. So highly recommended. Yeah, it's a little expensive. It retails for like $100. I got a $25 off. Occasionally, like Backpacker Radio or other places have partnerships and discounts. Just look for those and you can get that. I made a cozy out of windshield reflector. There's plenty of videos on YouTube how to do it. It fits said Vargo Bot, and basically I could keep my food warm for cooking. Great combination. And this was on my kit all the way through Cascade locks. Then I sent it home and I cold soaked the rest of the way. Cold soaking in Washington. This is not the Talenti jar I used, but I used the Talenti jar. They work great, except don't put hot water in it. It will melt this. You don't want to do that. I learned that the hard way watching another hiker. So don't do that. Personally, maybe a Skippy peanut butter jar would be better. All you cold soakers out there, if you have better tips, please include that in the comments. I appreciate that. But cold soaking was fine. This thing worked great. And the stove. So I used a Soto Windmaster stove. This thing is an amazing piece of kit, and it really works well in the wind. This thing, again, I took it all the way to Cascade locks. I would use it again, and it's a very good stove. Highly reliable. And it's got a little piezoelectric starter. Never failed. Always had a lighter as a backup. This is a Toaks spork, or a spoon, not a spork, sorry. Use this the whole trail. Amazing piece of kit. Don't leave home without it. The biggest thing to save money when using a stove and cooking was this little guy, this flipfuel.co. You can get generic versions, but this is a fuel transfer rig. Basically, you transfer from a can with fuel to the can you want fuel. So it would go like this. So from to, you get this for like 35 bucks, totally worth it. Because of this rig, this was a game changer. I was able to basically not have to buy fuel once I got this thing. From Bishop, California, all the way north to Cascade locks, I always had fuel available in hiker boxes, and I just raided hiker boxes and took the fuel, and then properly discarded the cans as appropriate. You didn't have to pay another cent. This thing cost 35 bucks and paid for itself. So I highly recommend getting one of these. They're light, they fit in your pack, they compact, very handy. Anyways, to give you a size comparison, this is a little fuel can, you can see. All right, so that covers the camp gear with regards to stove, water, and things like that. So we'll move on. Okay, next topic is camp electronics. So what did I use on trail? So first and foremost, I had an iPhone 14 Pro Max. You can see myself in it. I got this for two reasons. I got it basically because it's got a really badass camera set on it and takes really good pictures in RAW. It's a backup to my GoPro, which I'm filming with right now, and my Sony a6700 when I had it. And it has tremendous storage. I got it with the 512 gig storage, and it's still my phone every day. This thing's a good piece of gear. All right, so moving on. Power banks. So I had two Nitecore NB10000s. So two of them, they're very, very light. They're about 5 ounces and change. per, and they each have 10,000 milliamps. What I liked about them is when you add them together, they still weigh less than one of Nitecore's 20,000 milliamp hour bricks, and each one has 2 ports, one USB-A, one USB-C, so put together, and I'm using them both independently, I have 4 ports, which I found very handy with the array of electronics and things. And I also could charge electronics at the same time I'm charging the brick if I had to. I had to do that multiple times on my thru hike. From a perspective, so through the Sierra, my load was the GoPro, my watch, which I'll talk about, occasionally the Garmin InReach Mini, which I'll talk about here shortly, and the phone. And one of these bricks, this 10,000 milliamp, I could go 3.5, 4 to 4.5, 5 days if I stretched it. That's exaggerating. 3.5 to 4 days if I'm stretching it with one of these bricks. And that was charging everything to some extent every day. So having 2 worked for longer stretches, you know, up to 7 days. So I found this combination to be really good. Interested in your comments if you have differing opinions. Let's see. My locator, Garmin InReach Mini 2. This thing handled everything I threw at it. Snow, rain, mud, desert, everything. This thing worked like a champ. I highly recommend it. You know, if you don't need it, but this was real handy. Left cookie crumbs for my family. Check in and check out messages every day. And looking back, it's all on my Garmin for my family to look at. They can see where I checked in all throughout the trail. It's a good piece of kit. My watch, this is overkill. I had this for 3 years prior to my hike, but I had it when I was in the military. This is a Garmin Tactics Delta Solar. I would not recommend it for just the average everyday user. In fact, this was a splurge item for me. I used my REI bucks along with some money I had, and I just went ahead and bought this thing. It has way more than you really need. I would get a cheaper model, but this had color maps of the PCT and other trails also, so this was handy, and it kept all my bio data, and I tracked how I acclimatized to greater than 10,000 feet, etc. Tracked my sleep. This thing was a good piece of kit, and while I was tracking almost round the clock, you know, it would last about 3 days before the battery died. Or if I wasn't tracking anything at all, it can at least go a week to almost a week and a half before I have to charge. Good piece of kit made by Garmin. All right, so this was my electronics charging bag. This is a Hilltop Sachs bag. So let's see, go into my flashlight. So my flashlight, this is a Nitecore USB-C. This is an NU25, NU25 UL. This thing was pretty good. It has a crack in it, but this thing was great. I did a lot of my hikes, as you remember from my videos. I started early before sunrise pretty much every day, and this thing worked like a champ throughout the trail. I only had to charge it once every 3 to 4 days with heavy use. Okay, so to charge electronics, I had several cables, and I'll go through those. So mainly, I had 2 USB-C cables. One was made by Anchor, one was just a stock Apple one. They're both USB-C to USB-C, so you can see both ends. And I had 2 of them. Why? Because my charger you can get on Amazon. This is a Mokin, M-O-K-I-N. I think this was a 45 watt. You can see how small it is. Compare it to a Garmin InReach Mini. Look how small this thing is. Super light, 45 watts, and I could have 2 ports USB-C, so I could connect these guys up. And I could charge all my electronics with this in town, and this thing was amazing. So highly recommended. It's one of the smallest lightweight chargers you can find, bang for the buck. Other things in my kit. So earplugs, highly recommend. Get the 3M type. Don't skimp on that. Get the 3M. And this little thing was pretty handy. So I have 2 little adapters. Basically USB-C to Firewire, or whatever that thing is called, or Lightning for the iPhone. I could connect that up and charge my phone that way. Or if I wanted to charge my Garmin watch, I had a USB-C to Garmin proprietary adapter. So basically I could connect up to my watch and charge that way. Very handy, and that was my kit. And then I have another piece of gear that's not in here, and I'll show you here in a sec. Okay, the other two pieces actually it was two pieces. One is this sun trassie. It's like an adapter. You can see right here. So it's got, I'll show you, it's got a USB-A, a FireWire, and also a USB-C. And you just plug that in. You can either plug into an Android, an iPhone, or a PC. And most importantly, you have slots right there. You have an SD, micro SD, and for power. So that's power coming in, USB-C, micro SD, and SD. I use this every day for media and content creation. So all your movies that you saw that I provided and uploaded while I was on the trail came that way. So basically I'd pop out my micro SD or SD from my camera or GoPro. I would just connect it up, plug it in, upload my videos onto my iPhone, and create my movies basically on my iPhone. And I would upload everything. So I did everything pretty much on my iPhone for the trail. So that was pretty handy. The second item was, of course, you need a spare battery. I had a spare GoPro battery, and I would alternate using them between town stops. So that covers the end of electronics. Okay, now let's go into clothing. This is the fun part. I already covered almost everything else, so last but not least, clothing. So the first thing is trousers. So all the way to Oregon from Mexico, I used Outdoor Research Feroce pants. These things are amazing. Even in the heat and in the cold, I never was too cold, and I never sweat too much. These things are perfect. These things are hackers. I've done so many repairs on these. These are repairs on my rear pocket, the crotch, numerous things on the knees. I ripped them in the Sierra on Crampons and did repairs. Great piece of clothing, totally worth the 70 to 80 bucks for a pair of these. In fact, I have an extra set of these that don't smell that I use just for daily wear. They're great adventure pants. When I got to Oregon and Ashland, I got the shorts version of the Feroce pant, and this thing is great. No issues. I use that the rest of the way from Ashland all the way to the Canadian border. Highly recommended. Good piece of kit. Sun hoodies. Oh my gosh. I already talked about them pretty much in my videos. And I got rid of the ones that I've already used so far. But the one I finished with is right here. And this is made by a company in Bend, Oregon called Magnet Designs. And it's made by the proprietor. And I'll show you what it looks like. Magnet Designs, Bend, Oregon. Shout out to Magnet. Great American, makes great gear. Support local, support American. Check out their website and buy from Magnet Designs. This is their Mazama Sun Hoodie. And what I liked about it was it worked well in the cold, it worked well in the heat, and it basically has a nylon exterior with an interior that's made of merino wool. So it's a dual fabric. So in the Sierra, this plus my Enlightened Equipment wind jacket was pretty much all I wore throughout the day. When it got warmer, I just went to this, and that went down to as low as 20 degrees, this combination. At night, when I slept with this, unless it was really hot, then I would take it off, but I could sleep with this comfortably, no issues. And I talked about in previous videos the initial version. I had a green one that had some issues with the stitching, and I talked in detail about it. Go back and check my video out from Northern California when I got to Etna and talked about getting a new one sent to me. But shout out to Magnet, great piece of kit, highly recommended. Let's see, underwear. I'm not going to show you the underwear. Basically, I had the ex officio men's underwear. Those things are great. I had one set that I used the entire trail. Never had any issues. Never tore a hole. Awesome. So sleeping pants, if I needed, if it got cold, I had these Farpoint Alpha Fleece long johns. These things are great. It weighs like 2 ounces, super light, and it's really warm, really good. So I had this all the way through the Sierra. This is a Senshi Designs pullover hoodie, alpha fleece. So sorry, it's just a big pile of alpha fleece. But it's a Senshi Designs. A lot of companies make alpha hoodies, so you don't have to go with Senshi. I went with Senshi. They have good product, no issues, good piece of kit. Socks. I'm going to send these back to Darn Tough for exchange because there's holes in them. I went through 3 sets of socks on the PCT, and I was able to stop at trail towns that had sock exchange in store. South Lake Tahoe, there's one, I think it's called the Gear Exchange. Just look that up in South Lake Tahoe. And then in Bend, there was an outfitter that took sock exchange, no questions asked. But Darn Tough socks, awesome. And I had 2 sets of them on trail. Waterproof socks, this was definitely important north of Sonora Pass when I went back to trail runners from boots. So these are basically waterproof socks, or yeah, sealskins type socks. You can look those up. Okay, continuing on with clothing. I forgot about my knit cap. Appalachian Gear Company. Alpaca wool beanie. Very nice piece of kit. Love this thing. And I already talked about their sun hoodie. Great idea in principle, terrible in execution for long distance hiking. But for static things like you're not going to rub, alpaca, this is good fabric. All right, let's go to footwear. So predominant footwear I used was, I think what most people use, Ultra Lone Peaks, 6, 7, 8, whatever. They work for me. I've used zero drop shoes for years. No issues. I did use the Olympuses for a couple legs. They're more padded. They're zero drop. The problem with them is they're as durable as a cotton ball. Basically, they'll rip and fall apart pretty quickly. So I do not recommend Ultra Olympuses. They're cheap pieces of crap. Not worth your money. The other thing too is insoles. I use Superfeet insoles, and looking back, a complete waste of money. Superfeet insoles cost too much. They don't get the job done, and when they get wet, they disintegrate. Pieces of crap. And if they disintegrate at the heel, basically, there's this little disc. I'll try to go round one up and show you what the problem is. Bottom line is, it caused excessive discomfort near Stevens Pass, and it was debilitating. And I will go find it to show you what it looks like. But I replaced it with a cheap insole, and it worked. And then for the Sierra, from Walker Pass all the way to Sonora Pass, I use the Salomon GTX Quest 4s. Good boot. My only critique of them is it gets narrow going into the heel, and it caused massive blister for me at the beginning on my left foot. But they are waterproof, at least for most of the Sierra, until I got the Yosemite Mud and Water Park. And then at that point, the boots finally gave up and started letting water in. But good boot overall, and the reason I got them is because they fit mountaineering crampons, which I ended up using a lot, of course, in the Sierra. Anyways, good boot, and I'll go find the insole and we'll talk about that. All right, continuing on to footwear. So these are Superfeet hiker insoles. They look nice. They cost about $52. They got a little hard plastic reinforcement with this little gel thing, so when your feet make contact, you can see basically it's supposed to support you. Like I mentioned, when these damn things get wet, the freaking foam disintegrates. The problem is when you got hard plastic here and then you got this gel here, that edge forms a knife and basically starts digging into your freaking heel. And when you hike, 20 plus miles a day, it's debilitating and it hurts so bad. That's why I don't recommend these damn things, especially if you're going to hike in warm places. If you're going to hike in the desert, yeah, and I guess so, but they're overpriced. I don't recommend them. Don't buy them. You can get better for less. Enter what I bought at Big 5 Sports in Wenatchee, Washington. These little fuckers, this is some generic brand, Spenco, whatever with all foam. These cost $19.99, and they do a 20 times more effective job at keeping my feet protected and comfortable than these $50 pieces of shit by Superfeet. So, and I say this with conviction because you need your feet to freaking hike. And that could have been these damn things could have ended my hike. Anyways, enough said on that. So let's shift to snow gear a little bit. I use this Petzl ice axe. You can see it right here. And it's a Petzl Summit. It's nice. It's a little heavier than the one that most people use. What is that? The Camp Corsa, whatever that thing is. A lot of people were rocking those. I ended up using this one. This worked fine, and it saved my ass on Glen Pass. So, good piece of kit. Okay, continuing on with snow gear, and then I'll transition to the final pieces, I think. The trekking pole and umbrella. So, I mentioned earlier gloves. Waterproof fishing gloves. I use these through the Sierra. These are the Temres 282-02s. You can see that right there. You can get them on Amazon. Super light. Andrew Skirka recommended. Basically, they're gauntlet style. I use them in the Sierra. These things are gold. And they're fairly light for what the level of protection you're giving. Completely waterproof, doesn't breathe. So, you know the pros and cons. Figure that out. Let's see. Southern California, the high country there, and also north of Sonora Pass. Microspikes, Catula Microspikes. Nothing too special about them. They work. If you have big feet, I would recommend considering, instead of Catula, go with the Snowline by Chainsen Technical Gear. These Snowline Chainsen Pros, extra large, they actually fit better on bigger feet. I have size 13s, so I own a couple set of Microspikes. I recommend those for bigger feet, but the Catulas work for me. Alright, so crampons. I used General Mountaineering crampons. You don't have to. A lot of hikers didn't. A lot of hikers were comfortable wearing nothing with traction or these dumb Microspikes. Your risk, your choice. You do what you do you. I'll tell you what I did. So these are mountaineering crampons. They are made by Camp, it's the same people who make the Corsa ice axe. These are the Camp Stalker. No joke, they're called the Stalkers. That's the model name. General Mountaineering crampons. So basically, you can see it's got the front spikes, and it fits my feet up to 13, and it fit with my boots. So in this case, the Salomon Quest G4 boots, and you can see they fit just fine. So really good. What makes these interesting, you can use them for multiple seasons because they're steel. The crampon teeth are steel. There's also crampons with aluminum. They're generally good for one season of hard use, and then you can just throw them away. But the metal ones, they weigh more, they're more durable, you can use them longer. And frankly, if I go back on snow, which I know I will, these things are nice to have. So I paid a little more for them, but they're totally worth it for me. They're a little bit heavier. So again, do your research before you get traction. And remember, I went through in May when there was a lot more snow, so it made sense to have crampons. Okay, so let's see. Next thing, not snow related, umbrella. So if you remember from one of my videos in Southern California, this was a Six Moon Designs sun umbrella. Great idea. I used it on the Appalachian Trail also. The problem in Southern California is that, I didn't know about this, but there's all these damn manzanita trees and all these other things with high trees. They just rip the crap out of your umbrella. So you're trying to wear your umbrella shield from the damn sun, and your umbrella's just getting, jacked 7 ways to Sunday. And this thing has no value added. I used it for about 20 miles in the entire 700-mile section of desert. I sent it home long before 700 miles, only to be reunited with it when I got home to Florida. All right, so trekking poles. I used basically non-freestanding tents, so trekking poles were very helpful. These are the Black Diamond Alpine WR Whippet Ready. So you can attach a whippet, you can remove this, and you can put a whippet on it. Cork handle. I used these trekking poles the entire trail, Mexico to Canada. These things will continue to be used. They're still in pretty good shape. The carbon fiber is starting to get some cracks here. the camera probably doesn't show it, but there are some cracks. I had to support my entire body weight multiple times with these damn things in the snow when I was having tumbles. But I can't speak enough about Black Diamond trekking poles. Industry standard, highly recommended. Okay, let's go into miscellany. Sunglasses. What did I use? I used Oakley sunglasses, prescription sunglasses. These things are freaking amazing. They've been dropped many a time, and they just keep ticking. Great piece of kit. Let's see, other things I have not shown. This was my food bag in the desert. This is my little DCF. Who makes this thing? I think it's made Hilltop Packs to make this little DCF food bag. And then I use these Hyperlight Mountain Gear pods. These things are nice for organizing. What I found as I got further and farther down the trail is I don't need them. They just add weight. Their utility is offset by I just didn't need them. So I just went to a Ditty bag. Initially in the trail, I had this Hyperlight dual use. It's a pillow and a DCF storage bag. So there's a nice little soft fleece. You can turn it inside out, stuff your gear in, and it makes a pillow. Well, for me, this pillow is terrible. Great idea and concept, terrible in execution for me. It may work for you. This is a brilliant idea, actually. Check it out on Hyperlight Mountain Gear. And I think, oh yeah, Hilltop's sacks. I use this for my electronics. This was for my main electronics, but then, you know, batteries and stuff like that, I just threw in this little DCF Ditty sack by Hilltop Packs. Really good. Okay, last but not least is tripods. I was going through my list and realized I didn't put tripods on the list, and I should talk about them. So when I had my camera, Sony a6700, I used this Pedco tripod. So basically, you can adjust. Basically comes with the ability to screw on, in this case, an Arca Swiss mount. You can buy any of these in any photo store or on Amazon. I just screwed that little guy in, and I had an Arca Swiss mount, which then I can mount the bed plate from my camera, which had an Arca Swiss mount that also doubled with connecting my Peak Designs backpack mount. Anyways, I used this for the trail all the way through South Lake Tahoe, and I sent this little guy home. For the rest of the trail, when I just had the GoPro, I just had a GoPro mount tripod. Real cheap plastic, telescoping. You can see the little adapter for the GoPro, and this thing I used like once or twice, but I carried it the rest of the trail. I could use it it doubles as a selfie stick, but as a tripod. So there you have it. All right, I think that covers everything for gear. Okay, and last but not least, in the equipment that I took on trail with me is this 1/8 inch thick Gossamer Gear foam pad. This piece of gear is pretty banged up. It's been ripped, it's been torn, it's been patched up and repaired with a lot of duct tape. And it's my second one I used on trail. The first one lasted through the desert to Kennedy Meadows South. I had a new one waiting for me, and I got a new one at Kennedy Meadows South, and this lasted me all the way to Canada. This protected my sleeping pad from basically getting punctured, and provided a layer and protection between, you know, the floor of my shelter system and my sleeping pad. And it doubled as a sit pad. So cannot recommend this enough. Good piece of gear. It only costs like 20 bucks too. Okay folks, well there you have it. That was the review of the gear that I used on the Pacific Crest Trail during my thru hike this year in 2024. What I liked, what I didn't like, and what I would consider using again. If you have any comments or questions, please post them and I will attempt to address them. And again, thanks for watching, and click like and subscribe if you like the content.